There are moments in a celebrity's career when the noise suddenly seems to disappear, when the cameras are still flashing and thousands of eyes are watching, yet one small expression, one unexpected pause, or one carefully chosen sentence can make everything feel strangely quiet. That is the kind of moment surrounding Zhang Ling now, because the idea that he may have revealed something he had never spoken about before has immediately created a wave of curiosity that is difficult to ignore. For someone whose public image has often been shaped by performances, appearances, interviews, photographs, and carefully observed moments, the possibility of hearing something deeply personal carries a different kind of weight. Fans are not simply wondering what he said. They are wondering why he chose that moment to say it, what brought him to that point, and whether the words revealed a side of him that had been quietly existing behind everything the public thought it knew. The reaction becomes even more intense when you imagine the atmosphere surrounding such a moment. A familiar face appears in front of the cameras, but instead of giving the expected answer, there is a pause. The expression changes. The energy becomes more thoughtful. The conversation moves away from the polished world of entertainment and suddenly feels personal. That tiny shift can transform an ordinary appearance into something people remember. Fans begin replaying the moment in their minds, wondering whether the hesitation meant something, whether the smile carried a hidden emotion, whether the words were easier to say than the feelings behind them. Sometimes the most powerful revelations are not dramatic announcements at all. Sometimes they are quiet pieces of truth that emerge naturally when someone stops trying to give the perfect answer and simply speaks from a more vulnerable place. That is why this particular claim has captured so much attention. Zhang Ling has spent years being seen through the lens of his work, his characters, his public appearances, and the expectations that come with being a highly followed actor. People recognize his face, his voice, his mannerisms, and the way he carries himself in front of cameras. Yet recognition is not the same thing as truly knowing someone. A public figure can be constantly visible while remaining deeply private. Millions of people can watch an actor on screen and still know almost nothing about what happens inside that person's mind when the cameras stop rolling. That distance between public image and private emotion is exactly what makes an unexpected revelation feel so powerful. And perhaps that is what fans are really responding to. Beneath the shock is curiosity, but beneath the curiosity is something more emotional. People want to understand the person behind the image. They want to know what experiences shaped him, what thoughts he kept to himself, what moments stayed with him long after an event ended, and what he might have learned while growing into the person he is today. When someone who is usually observed from a distance suddenly offers a glimpse into something personal, even a small glimpse can feel enormous. It creates the sensation that a door has opened for only a moment, and everyone watching is trying to understand what they saw before that door closes again. The most intriguing part is the mystery surrounding what was supposedly revealed. The title itself does not tell us everything, and that uncertainty is exactly what makes the moment so compelling. It leaves room for questions. Was it something connected to his career? Was it a personal experience? Was it a feeling he had carried quietly? Was it a lesson he learned during a difficult period? Or was it simply a small truth about himself that fans had never heard him express publicly? Every possibility creates a different emotional picture, and that is why speculation can grow so quickly when a familiar celebrity suddenly appears to step outside the boundaries of what fans are accustomed to seeing. Imagine the moment as it unfolds. The surroundings are filled with the usual energy, the lights, the movement, the expectation that another familiar interview or appearance is about to happen. Then something changes. Instead of rushing through the answer, he takes a breath. There is a brief stillness. The kind of stillness that makes people watching lean closer without even realizing it. His expression becomes more serious, perhaps more reflective, and suddenly the atmosphere feels different. The words that follow may not even sound extraordinary on the surface, but the context makes them feel important because they seem to come from somewhere deeper. That is how seemingly ordinary sentences become unforgettable. It is not always about the exact wording. It is about the emotion surrounding the words. A sentence spoken casually can disappear within seconds, while a simple statement delivered after a long pause can remain in someone's mind for days. Fans notice those details because they have followed Zhang Linghe closely enough to recognize changes in his expressions, his tone, and his behavior. They see the person they are familiar with, but they are also searching for something beyond the public performance. When that familiar image suddenly becomes more human and vulnerable, the emotional impact can be immediate. There is another reason moments like this attract such intense attention. Celebrity culture often creates the illusion that public figures are completely understandable because so much of their lives appears to be visible. Photos are everywhere, interviews are clipped and shared. Small interactions become discussion topics. A few seconds of video can be replayed thousands of times. Yet visibility can actually make mystery even stronger. The more people see, the more they begin wondering about what remains unseen. What happens when the cameras are gone? What thoughts never make it into interviews? What memories are kept private? What parts of a person remain untouched by public attention? For Zhang Linghe, that contrast is especially fascinating because his career has placed him in situations where audiences naturally become emotionally invested in the characters he portrays. Viewers watch him experience fictional happiness, heartbreak, conflict, determination, sacrifice, and hope. They become familiar with emotional expressions created for a role, and sometimes that familiarity makes it difficult to separate the actor from the characters people have grown attached to. So when the real person appears to reveal something personal, the moment can feel unusually intimate even when it is still part of a public appearance. That is where the emotional tension begins. Fans may look at the moment and ask themselves whether they are seeing something completely new or simply a side of him that has always existed but was rarely visible. Maybe the revelation does not change everything they knew. Maybe it adds another layer to it. Suddenly, an old interview might seem different. A past appearance might carry a different emotional meaning. A familiar expression might make people wonder whether there was more behind it than they realized at the time. This is how one unexpected revelation can make people look backward as much as forward. And then comes the inevitable wave of reactions. Some fans respond with shock because they never expected him to discuss something so openly. Others respond with affection, appreciating the courage it may take to share something personal in a world where every sentence can be examined. Some become deeply curious, trying to understand the story behind the revelation. Others may simply be happy to see a more genuine side of someone they admire. The emotional responses may differ, but they all come from the same place, the feeling that something meaningful has happened. There is something powerful about watching a person become comfortable enough to speak beyond the expected script of public life. The entertainment industry can be incredibly demanding. Every appearance carries expectations. Every expression can be interpreted. Every answer can be clipped into a short video and discussed by thousands of people. Under those circumstances, choosing to share something personal requires a certain level of openness. Even when the revelation itself is not dramatic, the decision to make it public can feel significant. Perhaps that is why the word "never told before" creates such a powerful reaction. It suggests history. It suggests that this is not merely information people had overlooked, but something that had remained outside the public conversation. It creates the image of a story that existed quietly while everything else was happening around it. Career milestones came and went. Projects were announced. Cameras captured countless appearances. Fans celebrated successes. Yet somewhere beneath all of that, there may have been a thought or experience that remained private until the right moment arrived. The idea of timing is important here. People rarely reveal meaningful things randomly. Sometimes a question creates the opportunity. Sometimes a particular memory comes back. Sometimes years of experience make a person more comfortable speaking about something that once felt too difficult to discuss. And sometimes a simple conversation unexpectedly reaches a deeper emotional place. Whatever the circumstances suggested by the title, the timing is part of the mystery. Why now? Why this moment? Why after everything that has already happened in his career? Those questions are what keep the story alive. Because the most interesting part of a revelation is often not the information itself. It is the emotional journey that led to it. Imagine the years behind one sentence. The early stages of a career, the uncertainty, the pressure to improve, the experience of stepping into increasingly demanding roles. the moments of success, the moments of doubt, and the countless days when the public only saw a polished version of what was happening. Every person carries experiences that cannot be summarized in a photograph. A single personal statement can suddenly remind everyone that behind the public image is a human being who has experienced change, pressure, excitement, disappointment, growth, and countless emotions that never reach the screen. That realization can make fans look at Zhang differently, not because the public suddenly knows everything about him, but because they are reminded of how much remains beyond what can be seen. There is something strangely beautiful about that. A celebrity does not have to reveal every private detail to feel genuine. Sometimes authenticity comes from acknowledging that there are parts of life that are difficult to explain. Sometimes a pause communicates more than a long speech. Sometimes a carefully expressed memory can tell people that the person standing before them has changed in ways they never noticed. The reaction from fans also becomes part of the story because fandom is built on emotional connection. People celebrate an actor's achievements, but they also become invested in the person behind those achievements. When something unexpected happens, that connection suddenly feels stronger. Fans may revisit old clips, discuss the moment with friends, search through past interviews, and wonder whether there were clues hiding in plain sight. A single new detail can create an entire emotional conversation. Yet beneath all the excitement, there is also something worth remembering. A public figure can choose what to share and what to keep private. Curiosity may be natural, but privacy still matters. If the revelation truly came from a personal place, the emotional value of the moment does not come from extracting every hidden detail. It comes from recognizing that someone chose to share a part of himself when he felt ready. That distinction can make the moment feel even more meaningful. It is not about knowing everything. It is about appreciating the trust involved when someone decides to reveal something they previously kept to themselves. And maybe that is the deepest reason this moment feels so different. Fans have seen Zhang in countless settings, but seeing a person speak honestly about something previously kept private can break through the distance created by fame. For a few seconds, the celebrity image becomes less important. The actor disappears into the background, and the individual comes forward. That is the kind of moment people remember because it does not feel like a performance. It feels like a glimpse. The emotional power of such a glimpse comes from its imperfection. Real people do not always speak perfectly when discussing meaningful things. They pause. They search for words. They smile at unexpected moments. Their expressions change. Their voices may become softer. Sometimes they seem unsure whether they have said too much. Those tiny details can make a conversation feel more authentic because they remind viewers that emotion cannot always be controlled as neatly as a public image. And if that is what fans noticed, it explains why the reaction became so intense. They were not simply reacting to information. They were reacting to the possibility that they had witnessed a rare moment of openness. A moment that felt different from the usual entertainment headlines. A moment where curiosity gave way to empathy. There is also something deeply human about the way people connect with stories of personal growth. Everyone has moments they once kept to themselves. Everyone has memories that become easier to understand with time. Everyone changes. A person may look completely different from the outside while carrying the same hopes, fears, and questions they had years earlier. When a celebrity reveals something personal, fans sometimes recognize their own emotions in that story. The details may belong to someone else, but the feeling can still be universal. That may be why the conversation surrounding Zhang has become larger than the revelation itself. It becomes a reminder that careers are made of more than public milestones. Behind every successful appearance are countless unseen hours. Behind every confident smile may be years of learning how to handle pressure. Behind every celebrated performance may be experiences that shape the person delivering it. When something personal finally surfaces, fans are given another piece of that larger human story. And perhaps there is a quiet sadness hidden inside that realization too. Fame creates visibility, but it can also create distance. The more famous someone becomes, the more carefully every personal moment can be observed. A casual comment can become a headline. A small gesture can become a theory. A private feeling can become a public conversation. So when someone chooses to reveal something, it can be meaningful precisely because it happens within that complicated environment. That is why the most respectful reaction is not simply shock. It is understanding. If Zhang Linghe truly shared something he had never publicly discussed before, the importance may lie not in turning the revelation into endless speculation, but in recognizing the courage and vulnerability behind opening up. The most memorable moments are often those where fame temporarily becomes secondary to humanity. And as the excitement continues, one question remains at the center of everything: what made him decide that this was the moment to speak? That question carries more emotional weight than almost anything else. Because the answer could reveal not only something about the past, but something about how he sees himself now. People change as they grow older. Experiences that once felt impossible to discuss can become lessons. Things that once caused confusion can eventually become sources of strength. A revelation can therefore be more than a secret being exposed. It can be a sign of personal growth. Maybe that is what fans sensed beneath the surface. Maybe they were not simply hearing something new about Zhang Linghe. Maybe they were seeing evidence of how far he has come. The most fascinating stories are rarely about the moment itself. They are about everything that happened before it and everything that may happen afterward. One unexpected revelation can change the emotional meaning of an entire conversation. It can make people reconsider what they thought they knew. It can remind fans that public figures are constantly evolving. And it can create a rare bridge between the person on the screen and the people watching from the other side. So when people describe the moment as shocking, perhaps the word shock does not fully capture what happened. There is surprise, certainly, but there is also curiosity, empathy, excitement, and a strange sense of closeness. There is the feeling of witnessing something that was not expected. There is the desire to understand. There is the realization that even someone as closely followed as Zhang Linghe can still have stories that remain unknown. And that may be the most captivating part of all. Because no matter how many photographs appear, how many interviews are released, how many performances are watched, or how many public appearances fans follow, there will always be pieces of a person that cannot be seen from the outside. There will always be memories that belong only to them until they decide to share them. There will always be moments that exist beyond the camera. If this revelation truly opened a window into one of those hidden moments, then its emotional impact comes from something much bigger than the headline. It comes from the reminder that behind the fame, behind the roles, behind the carefully watched public appearances, there is a person still living, learning, remembering, and changing. And perhaps that is why fans cannot stop talking about it. Not simply because Zhang Linghe may have said something unexpected, but because for one brief moment, the distance between the public figure and the human being seemed to become smaller. The mystery did not disappear. If anything, it became deeper. But sometimes a mystery becomes more beautiful when you realize it belongs to a real person with experiences that cannot be fully captured by a headline. The moment ends, the cameras move on, and the noise eventually fades. Yet the feeling remains. A few words can create thousands of questions, but they can also create something quieter: understanding. And perhaps long after the excitement surrounding the revelation has passed, what fans will remember most is not every detail of what was said, but the feeling of seeing a different side of Zhang Linghe, a side that had remained out of sight until that moment. That is what makes an unexpected revelation so powerful. It does not have to change everything. Sometimes it only has to reveal one small piece of the person behind the image. One honest moment. One unexpected emotion. One glimpse beyond the spotlight. And once that glimpse has been seen, it becomes impossible to look at the moment quite the same way again.